Hi, thank you for joining us. We begin in the Middle East, where there's growing uncertainty surrounding the U.S. and Iran's 60-day temporary agreement after today's peace talks in Switzerland were delayed. The White House says the vice president's trip to Geneva was canceled over logistical issues. According to the memorandum of understanding signed this week, both sides have 60 days to negotiate a long-term peace deal, though the president now says that deadline could be extended.
Now we have an agreement that was signed last night, and it's 60 days. They have to make a deal. Otherwise, we will do things that won't make them happy. But I don't think it's going to get to that. I think it's going to be very good.
The decision to delay the vice president's trips comes on the heels of Israeli attacks on Hezbollah in Lebanon about 24 hours after the MOU was signed. According to people briefed on the matter, Israel and Hezbollah reached a ceasefire agreement to halt hostilities in Lebanon in the hours following the strikes. Since the start of the conflict between the U.S. and Iran, Tehran has viewed Israeli strikes in Lebanon as a non-negotiable and a threat to future peace talks. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Imtiaz Tyab has more.
Well, it seems for now the ceasefire holds, but Israel releasing tonight a number of images saying that its, quote, buffer zone is only expanding. Right now, it's about 6.5 miles or so from their internationally recognized border north into Lebanese territory. Now, while this ceasefire is in place, Israeli soldiers will not be withdrawing. They're going to remain on the ground. Now, they have said that if they are targeted in any way by Hezbollah or perceive any threats, that they reserve the right to respond. Hezbollah essentially saying the same thing, going even further and saying that they want to see Israel leave Lebanese territory altogether. Now, while that looks unlikely, it does pave the way, this ceasefire does pave the way for those negotiations between the U.S. and Iran to start. Remember, we have this memorandum of understanding, which is now paving the way for this 60-day period in which the U.S. and Iran can go through the far more thornier issues like its nuclear program, sanctions relief, and many other key issues that are going to be, quite frankly, difficult to overcome. But the issue of Lebanon, certainly a key issue. Although Lebanon is not directly at war with Israel, it is Hezbollah, which is essentially a nation within a nation. This is going to be an underlying tension because here in Israel, there are very few people who do want to see that war ended. They do believe that Hezbollah poses an existential threat, that around 60,000 Israelis who have been displaced from their homes ever since fighting began with real intensity back in March need to be able to go back, and until they believe that that threat is now over, they say the fighting will continue. But again, there is a ceasefire now. The question is, will it remain? Back to you.
Imtiaz Tyab, thank you. CBS News chief foreign affairs correspondent and Face the Nation moderator Margaret Brennan joined us now. So, Margaret, what really happened with this meeting Vance was supposed to have with the Iranians? And has the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon changed the dynamics?
Well, it was known for some time to the mediators, to the negotiators, that Lebanon was a potential spoiler here to a pretty fragile situation and memorandum of understanding. What we know happened is that there was this exchange, the firing on an Israeli tank, some fatalities, the Israelis responding, hitting Hezbollah. The back and forth of it hit pause with this ceasefire that was really hastily put together in order to save the diplomacy. But it was too late here for Vance to launch this trip to Switzerland to have some kind of face-to-face with the Iranians. And it's also what I'm hearing from my sources on the Iranian front. They are not eager to have a side-by-side image of their speaker, Ghalibaf, standing next to the vice president, nor are they eager to really take this memorandum at face value without seeing how far they can press their advantage. That is, they know President Trump really wants this agreement. They see that he has, promised basically to end a war that the United States is not party to. The U.S. isn't part of Israel's war against Hezbollah in Lebanon, yet America promised to end Israel's war in Lebanon. So they're almost treating Hezbollah as a subsidiary of Iran, and Israel is a subsidiary of the United States. And Iran is testing that premise right now, saying, President Trump, will you make Netanyahu truly withdraw his troops or end this conflict? point 1 in the memorandum of understanding calls for a termination, a permanent end to the conflict in Lebanon. And it's not at all clear that President Trump could deliver on that pledge. And that is really what we're seeing being tested right now.
So on that point, what are you hearing about tension between the U.S. and its closest ally in the Middle East?
Well, the president and the vice president have been incredibly vocal about their frustration, their inability to get the prime minister of Israel to hold back in the way that they apparently want him to. The president used very specific language about the scale of Israeli strikes in Lebanon, saying you can't just go bomb buildings when one guy from Hezbollah walks in. That's almost an exact quote, but I'm paraphrasing. You have Vice President Vance really challenging some of the far-right members of the current Israeli cabinet and challenging them, saying, you don't have many friends out there. America is Israel's only partner, so sort of watch what you say. It's a pretty incredible, tense moment playing out in front of the cameras. And if you remember, this was really a politically toxic tension we saw in the last administration with the Democratic president, who took a lot of criticism for being vocal, or not as vocal, some would like it within his own party, but being vocal about concern of how Israel was using American-made weapons to prosecute its war in a different front. Now you have President Trump saying it flat out in a way that perhaps he feels he may have the political leeway to do because he has partnered with Benjamin Netanyahu not once but twice to go to war in Iran. So he seems to be sort of pressing that right now and saying, you got to listen to me, I'm the superpower.
Who do you have Sunday?
Well, we're going to be talking to Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican from South Carolina, who's been one of the president's both closest allies and sharpest critics of this deal. But in the past 24 hours, he did a 180 on this thing. He's now saying, give Trump some time. But he's trying to spin this, talking about pressing the advantage, he's trying to spin this so that the Trump administration pushes Saudi Arabia and Israel to normalize their relations, saying both of you countries owe President Trump for what he has done to take on Iran. So now you have to do what he's saying. It's a big gamble. We'll see how far that goes. But here in Washington, there's a lot that's controversial on the national security front. We're going to talk about the loss of a major surveillance authority in terms of Congress allowing it to expire, and the very controversial acting head of U.S. intelligence, Bill Pulte.
Okay, Margaret, Brennan, looking forward to that on Sunday on CBS News 24/7 and Paramount Plus. Thank you.